I've been watching in horror some of the things transpiring in the world, and my heart has been hurting. And I've been asking myself, what's the answer here? Because conversation doesn't seem to work. There's like an entrenchment of perspective that seems to be rooted in deep, deep anger and hatred. And so, what do we do with that? And my guest today is Laurie Seymour, and she suggests that we focus on unconditional remembrance. It's time to remember who we are. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is greater than us, to the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably to a deeper understanding of who we are and what we came here to do and be. And I'm your host, Kerri Hummingbird. And I love these conversations week after week on the podcast. I'm so grateful to all of you who have joined us over the last almost 400 episodes of Soul Nectar Show. So grateful for your presence, for your love, for your support. And I am feeling in my heart today. I know we've been talking a lot about standing in your power and knowing who you are and being unconditional love and being that grounded presence in the middle of the chaos, finding yourself in conscious community and showing up. And today we're going to continue that conversation with my beautiful friend, Laurie, who's here to join us. And I want to just say, it's not that the challenges stop when you realize who you are, but it's that you meet them from a different place. And it's always my prayer that everybody listening to this podcast is getting the support that you need to remember who you really are, because it's only that place of remembrance of the true self that we can meet everything happening in this third, fourth dimensional reality, this lower reality, this human reality, this nuts and bolts and bodies and bones. This reality requires us to face many, many, many challenges. And we certainly are facing many challenges as a collective, and to bring the consciousness of who we are, the timeless self, the one that remembers who she is, the one that beyond time, the one that created this body, created this life plan, created this incarnation. This one is the one that can bring peace to the storm. This one is the one that can reconnect the divides. And in the middle of the human consciousness, the human experience, if that's all we're operating from, it gets very heavy and very dense and very guarded and divisive. And because all of the instinctual centers are triggered and filled up with fear and survival. And in that lower consciousness, in that fear-based matrix, we can get confused about who we are. And we can even be following what we think is a savior and doing the opposite of what Jesus taught. Let's just be clear. And not even realize it because of the level of confusion and doubt and fear and vengeance, anger, righteous anger, all of these really deep emotions that can happen in the human experience when we're immersed in the understanding of ourselves only as this temporary incarnation, what many shamanic traditions call the personality. When all we think we are is the personality, the shell is what we are. We are missing the point. of who we actually are. The personality is only here for us to express through. And so if you heard what I said, the personality is who we express as, but it's not who we are. It's a temporary expression. And when we lose sight of that and we get trapped in being only the personality, we get trapped in a world of hurt, basically, a world of pain and hurt and struggle and strife and division. And, sort of like thinking that there's only 6 slices to that pie and I want all 6 for myself. And we're seeing this play out. And it's the shadow frequencies that the personality operates from when it's left to its own devices, because it doesn't have what's necessary to operate from the higher consciousness, because it doesn't remember who it is in truth. It doesn't know that it's an expression. And I hear many people saying, well, we need to get rid of the ego. How else are we going to interface with life? Like, that's not the solution either, to kill the ego and destroy it. That's the solution. That's really just the ego talking, because the divine self already knows the ego is beloved. The divine self already knows that personality is exactly the medicine it came to embody in this lifetime, down to the tiniest detail. So when we remember who we are, we can bring a whole different frequency to the conversations we have, to the places that we put our physical bodies, and to the way that we perceive others and the world. And the way that we perceive others in the world definitely influences the outcome. And I'm not immune to judgment. So I don't want anybody ever to think that I'm somehow elevated above this nasty human condition. No, I have plenty of opinions and plenty of judgments. And if you've listened to me long enough, you've watched me contend with them week after week after week on the show, bringing in my friends. And so I'm with you. I'm so with you. My heart is literally aching from some of the things I'm seeing in the collective right now, aching. And we're going to bring our higher consciousness to it. And my friend Laurie Seymour is here to help us do that. Welcome, Laurie.
Kerri, thank you for that transmission.
Yeah.
That really was, and it was so beautiful. And it was incredible to listen to it, because to listen to it and to feel it, because it was like a incredible rhythm and vibration that was happening right across this Zoom screen and out into the world. Because you could have been, I could have been speaking your words, you could be speaking my words, and I thought, oh my goodness, we've done it. We've done this show.
Totally. That's the show, you guys. But we're going to hear from Laurie. I'm getting total body chills. Anybody else getting like full body chills? Because I'm getting full body chills. You guys, Laurie suggested the title, and I got to say, it's time to remember who we are. This is Laurie. Thank you for that title for this episode. And if you guys haven't seen the previous episode with Laurie, I'll put the link in the show notes and you can go check it out. But she is the host of the Wisdom Talk Radio podcast. She's an executive mentor, an international trainer and speaker, and a certified master trainer. She's the founder and CEO of the Baca Institute, and she's dedicated her life to showing you how to reliably connect with your energetic, creative intelligence, your source, dissolving old patterns of difficulty, struggle, and self-sabotage. And she's got a new book coming out, which is why we're having this conversation. It's a beautiful book. It's so personal and real and tangible and practical and very clear about how do you find yourself? How do you know who you are? How do you do this? And I loved actually hearing, Laurie, I loved hearing your experiences with your own mentor. I didn't know that part. And so it was like, oh, this is cool. I didn't even know how you got started. I just met you and I knew I loved you. So her book is Unconditional Remembrance, Your Connection to Source. And so I welcome you to pre-order if it's not available yet. If you're catching us before the book gets released, pre-order it. And if after, well, then just go get it. Go get it and read it. Come on, people. Okay, so I mean, this is such a beautiful time on the planet, and I know that it doesn't feel beautiful. And so, how do we navigate this? How do we move through the world? And what do you recommend for people?
Wow, big question. And I love that you have created so much ground for us to be able to speak to around this, because when you say remember who you are, and then you talked before about personality, it's not about remembering our personality. Our personalities are just fine. We don't need to sit and process ourselves from now until the second coming.
Right? Go back and review every single little wounds. And I mean, for a
Right.
while it's useful, but then it kind of, you got to move beyond it.
You've got to move beyond it, not as in they didn't exist. It's more about, first of all, about finding a context for, oh, who else would I be if I didn't have those things? How would I be able to show up in this life? How would I be able to teach what I need to teach, or be that bridge builder for whatever it is that I'm needing to build that for without those things? So, there's the time for healing, and then there's the time for saying, what's now? And we can't do that without the experience that we are source, which means we are love. We don't have to remember simply that we are loved, but that we are love in our essence, in every cell in the body. As we remember, as we come into this place of being who we are, the frequency in the cell rises. It's what happens naturally. And so as that frequency rises, we become more and more conscious, we remember more and more easily, and we start to then be able to use that creative intelligence, which is source, which is us, in the ways that we feel most aligned to do. And for each of us, that's a unique expression, because we express through our personality, as you just said. I haven't heard anybody else say it that way. And so it was like, yay, this is how I talk about it.
Oh, I learned about it from Jose Stevens, my teacher at the Power Path. So,
And I learned about it originally from Dawn Taylor, my teacher. So, but it's also my experience, having been a psychotherapist for years and trained in that way, and worked with people around their personalities. What I was more interested in is, what's your potential? Who are we really? Because I also always knew that there was more to us than I knew. It's like I had a partial memory that sort of haunted me.
it's like a deep inner knowing
Exactly.
that I would tap even when I was very unconscious,
Mhm,
and I was in the middle of so much drama. I
mhm.
would have in the middle of that this deep knowing,
Yeah.
almost like this whole thing is fake. In the middle of feeling all those things,
Yes.
like this isn't real. And then I would say, but yes, it is. And then I had this choice point that I could dive more into the drama, or I could just go, this. So for a while, I chose to dive more into the drama, right? You know,
Yeah.
but
Well,
like
it's compelling.
it
It's
is.
what's there in front of us. And if everybody in our life, especially as we're growing up, and the people that are taking care of us, especially if they're also buying into it, and believing it and living that way, what else do we have to go on when we haven't quite remembered?
And I feel like because you were also in the psychotherapy field, I was too, but on the couch for 20 years.
I was too, but yes.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like trying to process with my mind
Hmm.
something that was beyond my mind. Like
Yeah.
for a while, I realized when I first had that revelation, it was because I left the path of psychotherapy and I started with my energy medicine training with Alberto Viallo. And I realized, oh, I'm, how can I process pre verbal content using words? because I most of my trauma happened young, like 0 to 5. So
Mm,
I didn't have that many words. I didn't know a lot of words at 2 to describe what was going on. So how is that part of me gonna speak? It can't. It just wants to cry or it just
mhm,
wants to scream. It can't, it doesn't have words to share what its experiences. That part of me, that little
mm.
toddler, she couldn't speak. And I finally realized that was the block. But then beyond that, I realized I was like, oh, there's more to this. Like it's actually because spirit speaks through to us, our spirit, our soul speaks through visions and through feelings and through song and through, you know, that are not necessarily words. They come through,
Yeah.
they get translated and parsed, but they have to be translated and parsed into words.
And it all is happening. It all happened in energy. Everything is happening in energy. And I don't know that we always have to then translate it into words, but now some part of us as an adult has to, even as we go through each change, as every transformation, every moving to a new level and a new dimension, I, I have an experience in energy of an initiation perhaps, or of a, oh wow, okay, the energies are really strong today. Then I have to decode them later on. What's this change? Sometimes it's what am I now being called to do that was different than yesterday. Sometimes it'll show up in the pictures that come. Sometimes it'll show up in how I'm speaking to somebody, and I'll suddenly hear myself and say, well, that's different. And then I can start to acknowledge my changes. So
Yeah,
it's a dance.
it's a dance and it doesn't follow when we're conditioned, we expect things to be very rational and linear and
Mhm,
if I do this, then this will happen, cause and effect,
mhm.
causality. And causality is not incorrect. It's just a slice of the picture. Like
Yes, yes.
causality is just not the whole picture.
Mhm.
It's just a piece. And yeah, so when we do healing work, I think what we're doing, we're in, and I know I'm pretty sure you talked about this in your book, like what does embodiment mean? Because I think a lot of people get on the ladder of spirituality. Like there's like a
Mm,
destination well above this that I'm just going to hang out there forever and never
mhm.
come back down. But at some point you realize, why am I here? I don't think I'm here to avoid the experience I came here to have by bypassing going up and staying what I like to call eagle energy. I need to
Mm.
be at serpent and jaguar and hummingbird and eagle, like all 4 quadrants of the medicine wheel, right?
Well, I don't, even though I don't talk about things that way, and and that's
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Um, if we, how do I know? How do I have discernment about what is true and what is not when I'm looking out at the world? If I don't know the feeling of truth in my own body,
Mm.
then it's just a concept. It's an idea. And there's lots of concepts about spirituality and about being in bliss. And I just want to stay in bliss. And I got served those a lot, frankly. And I always, some part of me was so uncomfortable. And I knew something was off because whatever that early remembrance was, that early knowing, something didn't mesh. And I always felt wrong, and I always felt somehow bad or less than. And that's a real clue. If you're feeling, if you're there in energy and wanting to be with source, and you're bringing through guidance and messages, and you're feeling judged, it's not the truth. It's just not the truth. So
Yeah.
for me, it was when I finally had that experience, and it wasn't one, but it was a big one. It was a big initiation where I had that experience of unconditional love, that I got to say, oh, this is how it feels. And then to be able to have a reference point. Oh, this isn't that. Okay, let me go back. Let me take a breath in my physical body. let me reconnect. Let me remember. Because it's not really that I was disconnected. It's just the idea.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting you say that it was a feeling sense of the truth.
Hmm.
That once someone else who had a really good grasp on it
Hmm.
shared that frequency with you,
Hmm.
you remembered yourself in that sense of, that is what's true. Okay, I know that's true.
Hmm.
And this is why we have mentors oftentimes is speak or we pick places we want to tune into. And
Hmm.
this is what I've done my whole spiritual career, if you want to call it that, my awakening process is I've gone, that person has access to it. Okay, I'm going to go learn from them because I know in my body that they're a little step ahead of me. I'm
Mm.
going to go feel that, embody that, study it, and it's like it's not so much a mental studying, it's more of
Mm.
an energetic feeling
Hmm.
calibration.
Calibration is a great word. Ooh, yeah, I
Yeah, it's a
really like that.
calibration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
and
calibrating to love. Maybe that's what we need to call this.
ooh, ooh,
Woo!
ooh, I love that. Yes, calibrating to love because it's not to another person. Even as I in my book wrote about my experiences with Dawn and what that brought to me, there was this caution in me and like I don't want people to think that they have to have her
Yeah.
or it's not about the person. And what I was so grateful for and why I could do it with her is that she never did this. It's me.
Yeah, I've arrived.
Well, not only I've arrived, it was, yes, I've come through all of this stuff and don't follow me. Let me show you how to connect with your own inner guidance, with your own connection. And yes, there will always be a new frequency that'll come through me, and you can calibrate to that. In my work, people receive activations, and then they calibrate to that, not to me, not to me.
Exactly. And I'm thinking right now, what's been coming up for me lately too in my field is the
Mhm.
Holy Grail.
Yes.
So when the knights followed the Holy Grail, they were told you can never follow a path that anybody else has ever followed. You'll
Yeah.
never find the Grail.
Hmm.
You have to follow your own path in order to find the Grail.
Yep.
Come on, people. How much clearer does it have to be?
And the Grail has been an element and really an archetype that has moved me my entire life. Didn't grow up Christian, but that was very early on in my early 20s what started me on a particular part of my journey. I got to meet Joseph Campbell. I got to have conversations with
That's
him
right.
because, and I took that all out of my book, by the way, that whole preface.
Oh, okay.
But so
By
what?
the way, it was in the book that Laurie
It
studied
was.
with Joseph Campbell. Yeah, but
I didn't
cool.
study. No, I didn't study with him, but I did have conversations and I did, go and hear him speak several times because that whole search for self, that holy grail journey was so important to me because of that early place of remembering.
But that's the part, and this is what I find so beautiful about my life
Hmm.
when I decided to follow that inner voice and
Hmm.
my soul sent me visions and of the end of
Hmm.
the rope. And it was like a gong, like a symbol, like a whole body symbol to me. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh, that's the end of the rope. Oh, like the
Whew.
ding, this chapter's
Yes.
done. This whole book is done. Oh, I need to go. And my husband at the time was like, what are you talking about? And my friends were like, why are you leaving this marriage? It's perfectly fine. Every marriage has problems. I was like, no, there's something else. I mean, I was miserable. I was having nightmares and all kinds of things going on, right? So I was
Yeah.
in this dark shadow part. But that wake up call, that's powerful. And that's a part of
Hmm.
the journey. And when you say yes to it, you do make a great departure. There's a lot of pain and suffering and letting go and sadness and regret and all those yummy
Hmm.
human experiences. but then the adventure opens up. It's
Right.
like the lens shifts. Life becomes this amazing adventure, this discovery, this quest for the grail.
Yeah. And when you come to the grail, because one does, it's not like it's an endpoint that's a final endpoint, but one does. Then, because I want to bring it back to where you started us from, what happens as you have this great gift, this great realization, then what do you bring to the world? Then it's, what's my expression of this? How do I share it? How do I share this boon in the traditional search for self, search for the Holy Grail language? The hero's journey. How do we bring this back? And there's so much need. There's so much need in the world. There always has been, and it just feels more acute, maybe because this is our moment. But how do we bring this into our expression in a way that other people get to see the light? Other people, whether you say a word or not, they feel the love. And when they feel the love, then they start to remember. Ooh, and I get chills as I say that, because that is what we're here to do. In a way, nothing more, doesn't have to be fancy. It's to allow people to remember. So I was recently, in the last 6 months, 9 months or so, was told, you need to start traveling. You need to start doing what at that point I was calling living room salons. And then recently it's like, oh, it's a salon of life. And they're gathering us in people's homes so that the people can also be elevated themselves, but bring together their friends, bring together their colleagues in their homes. Not big. This is not me speaking to 2,000 people. It's, let's have 10 people, maybe 15, if it's a bigger home, and receive these frequencies, receive these new energies so that you can remember. And that love just starts building and connecting and expanding.
Yeah, it's really sharing. It's sharing a frequency to allow others to calibrate to that frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And I also was thinking this morning, what came to me to share is that years ago when I was at the Four Winds Life Body training program, Alberto brought in Bruce Lipton, who was talking about how, as a microbiologist, the way that he woke up to this is that he started studying the cell and the structure of the cell. And he realized that you couldn't put my cell inside your body unless you took the membrane off.
Mm.
And if you took the membrane off, then the cell could go in your body. But with my membrane, your body would reject it. And so he started looking like what it is in the membrane. And he realized that the membrane of everybody's cell is like a TV antenna. It's tuning to a frequency. And that frequency is that person's soul essence. So we're like receptors for our soul's energy, for our own source.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, the larger source is love. Right. But on an individual basis, it does individuate because we are here to have an individual experience of ourselves as divine and the oneness. So diversity and unity or oneness, right?
Exactly. You really can't have one without the other.
And so
it's not either or.
So it's really about, when we say calibrating, it's really about aligning your frequency to your actual frequency, which is your holy grail, right? And what gets in the way of that, what is distortion or interference, noise. Which is why a lot of this happens tonally, because you'll hear, when you're in the process of moving through a layer of distortion, you'll actually have hearing stuff like, like it feels weird, or there's like a loud white noise.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, so there's some distortion energy coming near you that is distorting your ability to connect with your frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also inner distortions, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when we take on patterns and things that
That
aren't
aren't true.
true, that
Yeah,
distorts
simple.
our frequency of love because it's
Mm-hmm.
not true.
And let me just bring in one little point there
Yeah.
too, which is sometimes those sounds are actually have to do with the raising of your own frequency, the shifting of your own frequency. There's they can be distortions, or they can be that what part of the process of recalibration.
Yeah, that one's more like a chime or a bell
It was that, well, I've
or
experienced it in
like a
different
high pitched
ways.
ring or something.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think we could probably experience it in many ways. But it
Probably.
feels weird when it's happening because it's
Oh
like your
yeah,
ear
because
will block or it'll
yes.
and like this loud, you know.
And because we are here in the physical, we do experience those things in our physical body. And then that's part of the, oh, not thinking, oh, there must be something wrong. Like sometimes people say, oh, I'm getting sick.
Or I'm getting tinnitus
When,
or
or, well, I mean, the hearing thing, or I'm feeling not well. But it's, well, of course, our physical body, as we're shifting frequencies, it's going to go through stuff. We're going to feel it in our body. I guess I just want to normalize that, and not everything is something being wrong.
yeah. And it doesn't all need medicine like of a traditional form.
Right,
It's kind
right.
of like letting yourself rest and breathe and
Mhm.
receive and acclimate
Yep,
to the new
to the new.
frequencies.
Yes. And that's exactly it, what you just said, Kerri. Letting yourself rest, letting yourself recalibrate, letting yourself get used to this, and giving yourself space. So, when you've come through something, and especially or you've birthed something, then there's that space, that void. And we have to allow ourselves to be at least semi-comfortable, if not fully comfortable, in the space of the void, in the nothingness, so that something can start to emerge out of that we're not pushing or creating, or, well, we're creating, but we're not pushing it. It's not, as you said earlier, it's not linear. This is why we talk about quantum leaps, because we cannot follow how the particle is both a particle and a wave, and we can't follow its path. Suddenly we're in a new place. We can't look back and say, how did I get here? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it just sort of happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it is uncomfortable. A lot of my students have been going through that sensation of being between worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have felt it recently, like in a much more present way. And the word that came to me on that was gestation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's like a gestating process for the new.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, many of us have been so busy clearing, releasing, release, clear, transmute, alchemize, fire.
Stop. Yeah.
Like we don't want that anymore, like
Mm-hmm.
get rid of it, whatever we have to do. Do we have to love it into being cool? If we have to burn it in a fire, whatever it is, right? So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
that. And then there's just the process of breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, the exhale empties the cup. We've emptied the cup, you guys. The cup is
Okay.
empty.
Yeah, but how are you going to receive
We
if you
have to
don't breathe
breathe.
in? Yeah.
So we did it. We did it at the high. And I've heard this from so many people at the higher levels. We've already done it. And
Mm-hmm.
so here we are simply experiencing the physical manifestation of what's already been created
Mm-hmm.
and
It,
how it's expressing.
yeah, it doesn't mean that it's always comfortable, because we're still here in a physical body, and our bodies are being transformed, frankly, down to the cellular level. And so that isn't always comfortable, but it doesn't mean we're healing or purging or having to clear that, clear, 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 clear. It's no, this is the transformation process. This is the what comes out of the gestation process.
And I
And
think
it's part of the
different,
creation.
people are slightly different places in this.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. I wanted to give voice to that.
yeah, because if you're at that place where you're hollow, okay, you're a bone. So when you get to that place when you know, like, okay, I'm hollow, that I did it, then you got to actually breathe. You got to just trust
Mm-hmm.
that the new seeds that you planted in all that fertile soil of mud and shit, that you transmuted, they're going to grow.
Yeah.
They're already growing.
And that's how we start to co-create. To me, it's the co-creation of my own expression with that source energy, which isn't really outside of me. I might make a gesture that looks like it is, but it's allowing that to come together to see what it is that's going to be created. And then there's co-creation with someone else. I feel like this whole conversation, Kerri, frankly, is a co-created conversation because each of us are speaking from that place of source. And then, wow, one thing ignites another and creates another and another and another. And
Yeah, because
there's nothing more exciting.
we're tuning into the same energy. Like we're
Right.
tuning into source. And
Mm-hmm.
source would like to move through me for some things to say. And source would
Mm-hmm.
then like me to be quiet. And then source would like you to bring up the next piece of that trail.
Mm-hmm.
And then source would like you to be quiet. And then it was like, oh, I got this. And then this is, and so like we get to, because in our embodiments, we have slightly different medicines
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
based on our journeys, and we're weaving together. I'm getting so many chills. We're weaving together like a tapestry here for everybody listening of like a new way of co-creating and living in harmony with others. And the Zoom is doing weird things, so of course I know the energy is high. Zoom's like, can I keep up with these light beings?
No, probably not. So just relax, Zoom, and we'll take it. We'll take it. But think about that. When people allow that to happen is when those brand new creations take place.
It's
It
really,
doesn't happen when the gang gets together and okay, we're going to fix this problem.
it's not from here.
Mm-mm.
It's like a deeper
from here.
resting. It's like resting deep inside yourself, like sitting down in yourself.
Mm.
I just try, because if you're here like this,
In the mental.
then you're leaning forward trying to inject, or there's something to the energetics of that.
Yes.
And it's just more like sitting back and down inside. Like,
And my experience is that you are connecting then with source through the heart center. And that allows this new creation, and it's coming up, it's including the mental. It doesn't leave it out. It's a fully co-created experience. And what if the people in the boardroom each had their own connection? And they do, but they remembered it and were coming from that place. And then whatever is needing to be created, whatever is needing to be quote unquote fixed, it comes from a very different place than it usually does.
exactly. And I do believe that there's a decent size of the population that can move into this way of being.
Yes.
And
yes.
there's another part of the population that would be challenged, at this point too. But
yeah. And
it's all
so,
learning. It's all frequency. Right. And so the more of us that are holding this frequency, it does sort of do the work for us. Like, I guess I say that because on my own journey, it was laborious. I mean, it really was laborious to forge this path.
Mm-hmm.
And to the place where now it's just like we've been talking about, it's a resting in and a sharing and an opening. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that even as I say, it was laborious. It was super laborious before my first teacher. And then it started getting so much easier. And it was like my first teacher said, after 3 years, he saw me. He's like, it's like we took a snowball at the top of the Himalayas and we just sent you rolling down the hill. He's like, and it's like an avalanche. It's like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, transmutation and evolution. You know,
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
happens? I mean, that's what we came here for.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of like that. And as I've worked with people at different stages on their path, what I notice is that for some people, too large a dose at one time can cause a lot of internal stress from
Mm-hmm.
the change being so deep and so rapid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it is important to find your place where you're with somebody a few steps ahead so that you can, it's more easy to integrate the frequencies that are coming in.
Mm-hmm. And having a supportive community also helps you remember, because we remember and then we forget. We forget because, we get tuned into what am I going to make for dinner? And oh my God, I got to pick up the kids. And for me, I just, racked up my knee and okay, it just takes a breath to remember, but having a community to help remind you, to help hold that is a really incredibly beautiful thing.
Yes. Yeah. And community, conscious community, we talked about that with Teresa just not that long
Mhm.
ago. And she created conscious community for all of us
Yeah.
in all those years ago.
Yes.
There's a force magnitude
Hmm.
with conscious community. It looks like a hot mess in the middle of it sometimes, but there is this, because the ego is just like really triggered by a lot of things that are going on. But it's actually quite catalytic. And if you know going in that that's what's happening, that layers of egoic
Mm.
conditioning are
Hmm.
coming to the surface to be witnessed in light and transmuting,
Hmm.
alchemizing, releasing. If you know that's what's happening, then you can celebrate those moments.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be so fearful of it.
And so that's kind of like a good advice, I guess, for today's climate, right?
Mhm.
Is that we're seeing, I don't know, myself included, I can look at social media too long
Mhm.
and I can get sucked into fear over the state of the world
Mhm.
or hopelessness or like a sense of devastation. Like, what is going on here? And from that state of consciousness, I can feel depressed or
Mhm.
sad or like, what am I going to do with this? Hopeless. I can't, helpless. I can't
Mhm.
do anything with it. And the people I try to talk to won't listen.
Mm.
And so, and I hear people saying this to me. And so I feel like this is the answer. It's the focusing on resonating the energy of love,
Mhm.
being that presence, allowing yourself to be refined, your tuning fork, right, to
Mhm.
source, so that the signal can be more clear and it'll make you feel better, which is a bonus. And it'll resonate that frequency in the world, which will support this awakening process.
Very beautifully said, Kerri. I mean, just, yeah, very beautifully said. And that's what's needed today. We have to remember that we have that capacity. We are that capacity. And if we think there's something other than that we need to do, people sometimes get stopped. But if we can remember and hold to, it's a frequency. And am I holding this frequency, or am I in judgment about what's happening, or dismissing something, or being in fear? Let me take a breath. Let me receive that breath, which is the intelligence of source. the intelligence of the universe. There's nothing else we need to do. There is, but only when we are in that place of remembering.
Yes. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of downloads for myself right now, which is really great because it's not like in a congested consciousness, there's not the room, the space
Mm.
to understand what's being said from a aligned consciousness. So it's not that they don't want to hear it. I mean, they don't, but it's that they really just can't. Like,
Yeah.
it's too
Yeah.
congested. And until it's cleared out, there's no space for love to get in and start teaching. So love is the teacher. Let's just be
Yeah.
clear.
And we don't
Yeah.
know. It's not up to us to either make them listen, to fix them enough so they can listen, or even to know how in the briefest of a moment that love transforms. We are not directing it. We are not in charge of it.
Yeah. And it's really just that listening to get it clear and aligned within yourself
Mhm.
and to listen for your aligned action for
Mhm.
today.
To listen for your aligned action for today. I'm not sure whose show this is, Kerri, mine or yours, or I mean,
It's a co-creation.
it really is. And I just want to acknowledge that in such a deep and a profound and appreciative way. It's pretty extraordinary. Thank you.
Yeah, I love this with you, Laurie. The combination of our energies and our energetic fields and our consciousness is like creating this massive opening of like downloads, streams of consciousness coming in, messages, guidance. And I'm just feeling like this is the coolest thing ever.
I'm going to go back to listen to this, and because there's things I need to hear and there's things I need to write down, and I'm thinking, okay, there's still this is why the book is not out yet, is because there keeps being more that comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yesterday I was writing about co-creation in business, and there was a whole lot more that I needed to write about. So it's like, okay, today there's something new.
And it's a journey and you're on the journey, and it's not really about the destination of publishing the book. It's about the evolution of Laurie
It is.
through, you know, and then
And at
everybody
some
gets the
point,
benefit.
I know that the energies will say, you're complete.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
you'll
And
have
then
like
then the publishing will
a,
happen.
a day to
Everything's in
actually.
place for that.
Yeah. Usually there'll be some tight deadline, like, okay, now put it out, you know, or something. Finished.
I've been given dates, and I have a date, and that we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see if it stays that. Time is fluid right
Exactly.
now. It's quite fluid.
Everything is.
So what do you recommend? I mean, what last, is there anything coming through you to sort of conclude this transmission?
Mm. I'd like to invite everybody who's listening to take a breath, a full deep breath, seeing the breath as light, and it comes into your heart center, into the center of your chest, and expands and expands and expands, filling front to back and side to side. And know that this light fills you. And every moment of remembrance is just a breath away.
That's beautiful.
Thank you for doing this, Kerri. Thank you for inviting me on. It's
Been lovely.
really something very, very special.
And I just know that it's in service
Mm-hmm.
to a lot of people. And we don't even know how many or where the ripples go.
Right.
And we don't know. We can just trust that This is this is one of those aligned actions. This is a contribution right here.
Mhm.
This is a contribution.
Mhm.
And if you want to go join a protest, you can. It's up to you. Both and whatever you
Or,
want.
bake a cake and deliver it to your neighbor just because.
Yeah, make a new connection and share your love.
Mhm.
Let it spread. Beautiful. I love this. Such a beautiful. So, well, I guess we're going to point you guys towards the landing page. And so if the book's not out yet, then you'll just pre-order it. And otherwise, you'll go up and buy it if it's out. So, Unconditional Remembrance, Your Connection to Source, Laurie Seymour. So it's an honor to have you here. I love this time together. I just kind of want to do this more often. And yeah, I'll be back on. We'll do it again. All right, everybody, we love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Share this broadcast with anybody that you feel would benefit from its messages and its energies, and with non-attachment, sharing it. And if they say yes, and great, then awesome. And if they say no, don't take it personally.
Mhm.
And we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. We're going to give kisses. Would you like to join me to give everyone kisses? Oh, here come your kisses, everybody. Thanks for staying to the end. Okay, here they come.
Mm.
Yay. And we'll see you next time. Have a great week, everybody. Bye for now.
If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, awake, Nectar Show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar from the source of who you are.